Continuing now with Frank Luntz in his dial session, asking the folks about the best and worst statements made by Donald Trump. And so on to Secretary Clinton. What do you have for us, Frank?
Well, we got two segments. The first one is Hillary Clinton at her best when she's talking about the economy, and amazingly, Bill, when she's acknowledging that things aren't as good as she would like them to be. Let's take a look.
Here's what I believe. I believe America thrives when the middle class thrives. I believe our economy isn't working the way it should because our democracy isn't working the way it should.
All right, so both the Republicans and Democrats approved of that, correct?
Yes, but here's the problem. She's talking about democracy not working as well as it could, or the economy not helping the middle class, but she's then saying in the next breath that the economy is perfectly fine, that this president has done a good job. Bill, you can't have it both ways.
Well, wait a minute.
There's
she doesn't say the economy is she said, let's be fair to Secretary Clinton. She says that Obama saved us from this giant depression that was going to kill us all. However, she's going to, the status quo isn't good and she's going to improve it. But doesn't get specific, as we talked about in the talking points. So now her worst moment, what's that based on?
Well, her worst moment, yes, and her worst moment is the ad hominem attacks against Donald Trump. That's not where she's good at, and frankly, her negatives are almost as high as his, which is one of the reasons why this was her lowest clip of her speech at the convention. Again, let's take a look.
Now, you didn't hear any of this, did you, from Donald Trump at his convention? He spoke for 70-odd minutes, and I do mean odd, and he offered zero solutions. But we already know he doesn't believe these things.
All right, but the Democratic thing, just like the Trump negative, 60%. I mean, they weren't offended by it, but obviously Republicans were.
She delivered a relatively speech in her tone, in her demeanor, in the language and the topics that she used. But, Bill, there's one thing that we're not showing people is Bill Clinton's defense of her. I have to tell you that of all the speeches, the overall speeches, the one that did the worst in both conventions was Bill Clinton describing that lady, describing that girl. Nobody believed it.
Nobody believed it.
He talked about their relationship. He had no credibility and didn't move anyone.
At least he tried. Now, I want you to explain how you do these things. We got about 90 seconds left. So you get a crew, what, 31 people in Columbus, Ohio? And how were they divided up, and how did you choose them?
So they respond. We had over 1,000 people responding for the 31 that actually got in. And these are people who are absolutely committed undecideds. They may have a leaning. And in fact, a third of them leaned towards Trump, a third of them leaned towards Clinton. And when the two conventions were over, Trump and Clinton had essentially the same level of support, which is exactly what you're seeing in the polls. And they use a device about the size of a remote control, and they turn it on a second-by-second basis whether or not they want to vote for that individual. And this is like an EKG. So the clips that you just saw, we can measure second by second exactly the impact that each word, each phrase, and each presentation has on these undecided voters.
Now, are there any qualifications to do these in-sessions? I mean, do they have to have a certain level of education? Are they political activists? Are there any personality profiles? Fact, nothing like that?
Nothing like that. They have to represent the American people. So we'll have an even number of men and women. We'll have young voters as well as older voters. We'll have less well-off voters as well as those who are upper middle class. It looks like America, but undecided America.
How about race? How about race?
What's going to happen?
How
race?
About, yeah.
There's always going to you're going to have at least one African American. But Bill, over 80% of African Americans vote Democratic consistently. So our groups are going to have a few less African Americans than you might otherwise have.
Yeah, because you're looking for, again, uncommitted people, people who haven't really made up their mind yet, right?
That's exactly the point, and we're trying to understand why they respond the way that they do.
All right. No, so, Frank, when you get an interesting sound cut from either candidate, just let us know. We'd like to continue to do this. It's very interesting, and we appreciate it. Thank you.